are the CMF Headphone Pro, and after using them for the last several weeks, I think they're pretty much exactly what I expected them to be for a budget pair of CMF headphones. But is that a compliment or a limitation? Let's find out. What's up friends, I'm Brian MacDuff, aka BMac, and welcome to another video. And today we are going to be taking a look at the CMF Headphone Pro, a budget-friendly headphones offering from CMF by Nothing. And going into testing these, I had a pretty specific expectation for what I expected these to be, and for the most part, that turned out to be exactly right. But whether that's a compliment or a limitation is the real question. First things first, I do need to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Nothing for sending out a pair of the CMF Headphone Pro for me to be able to check out and enjoy. So Nothing, thank you. But let's get things started right away here with the design of the CMF Headphone Pro. Because with budget headphones like these, the first question is pretty simple. Do they feel like a thoughtful, well-rounded product? Or just a cool looking pair that gets the basics right? The CMF Headphone Pro are an over-the-ear pair of headphones with circular ear pads, a padded headband, and a friction rod adjustment system. And they do offer some solid flex and articulation to accommodate different users' head and ear sizes and shapes. I found the ear cup padding to be comfortable, breathable, and providing more than enough stability for me to feel confident when wearing these, even when working out. You do have, by the way, the ability to quickly and easily swap out the ear pads should you ever want to replace them, or customize your own two-tone color look. And on the inside, they do feature 40mm dynamic drivers, while on the outside, they feature tactile buttons that includes an energy slider, a roller, and an action style button. The roller's easy enough to use. You simply just roll up or down for volume control. Track controls are built into presses here on that roller, and then noise control toggling could be done through a press and hold option on that roller as well. The action button, as I call it, could actually be used to invoke your voice assistant, manage noise control, or even turn the microphone on or off. And there is that additional slider I just talked about, the energy slider here on the backside of the left ear cup, and that can be used to actually adjust bass or treble amounts on demand. I'll be honest, the energy slider does feel a little gimmicky, but I do still appreciate it for quick EQ adjustments on the fly for when things might get a little too aggressive, but we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. Capping all that off is a USB-C port on the right ear cup and an aux port for hardwire listening on the left. You do not get any kind of hard shell or soft shell carrying case with the CMF Headphone Pro, but you do instead get this drawstring style cloth bag. And one thing to point out is that the headphones themselves do not collapse down. The ear cups fully rotate in so that they can lie flat, but there are no hinges here that allow them to actually collapse down any further. So what you see is pretty much what you get. And in terms of water resistance, you are getting an IPX2 rating on the CMF Headphone Pro, making them resistant to light sweat or light splashes of water. So that should give you a little bit of protection when you're wearing them when working out, or if you happen to get caught in a light drizzle. Color options are gonna include 3 base colors. You have light green, light gray, or dark gray, with those additional detachable ear cups being available in a light gray or an orange color. As far as design goes, they do make a strong first impression. I personally think they look pretty stylish. I think they're comfortable, and they are equipped in a way that makes them feel pretty promising for their price tag. But the bigger question, of course, is whether or not that first impression ends up telling the whole story. Because where budget headphones can sometimes feel a little less convincing is with their connectivity features. So do the CMF Headphone Pro still feel completely there, or is this where the price starts to show? Like I mentioned earlier, the headphones do feature those 40mm dynamic drivers that are made out of PEN and PU materials with a nickel coating, providing a balance between rigidity and flexibility. And the headphones do support Bluetooth 5.4 and the SBC, AAC, and LDAC audio codecs, and seeing that LDAC audio codec supported here definitely helps these headphones feel that much more complete, again, at this price point. You will also be getting multi-point connectivity with the ability to connect these headphones to up to 2 different devices at once. And there is also a low lag mode for the Headphone Pro, whereby you should be able to achieve a 100 millisecond or less lag when using them with a Nothing phone and turning on game mode, which is still not ideal for real-time audio if you're gaming competitively online, for example, but at least some support here to get that lag time down if that is of concern to you. A nice little bonus here is the ability to listen hardwired through the 3.5mm aux input connection. There is no USB-C hardwired listening support on these headphones, which doesn't really surprise me, but it is still pretty cool to see that aux option. But do keep in mind that that aux input connection here is active, meaning that the headphones do need to be powered on in order for that input to work. So no passive hardwire listening here, which means that these are gonna rely on battery power for you to listen hardwired. Just something to keep in mind. And then last but certainly not least, these headphones are compatible with the Nothing X companion app, available on both iOS and Android, and that's where you can adjust all the settings we've talked about thus far, and the other settings we're about to talk about. Plus a Find My headphones, by the way, that will emit a loud sound from the headphones should they ever be powered on and connected to your device and nearby but misplaced. And support for Google Find Hub that'll let you see their last known location on a map should you ever leave them behind somewhere. But even with all that, obviously sound quality is where this whole exactly what I expected idea either turns into a compliment or limitation, because do these actually sound good enough to rise above their price? Or do they mostly confirm why they cost what they do? When I heard about the CMF Headphone Pro and their price points, and judging from my experience with CMF earbuds, I had a feeling that these would probably sound a little warm with some punch. That is pretty close to exactly what you get. On paper, the CMF Headphone Pro do have a 20 Hz to 20 kHz frequency response range, which at least gives you a baseline for what they're aiming for. And for their price, they do a lot of what I expected them to do well, but not necessarily in a way that makes you forget what they are. For one thing, the listening experience isn't all that immersive, and I didn't really find instrument separation to be all that impressive. And things can get a little compressed if you start to pump up that bass, which keeps these feeling very much in line with the kind of sound that I expected at this price. And that's kind of the story here. There's enough EQ flexibility to push them a bit closer to your preferred listening taste because of the built-in EQ presets, even if the underlying sound still feels very in line with their price. And speaking of those built-in EQ presets, that's where you're gonna be able to see pop, rock, electronic, enhanced vocals, and classical EQ presets with an additional simple 3-band graphic equalizer built in for you to take advantage of as well. I actually found myself opting for the electronic preset to give myself a little bit of a V formation in the EQ balance, which is actually what I usually tend to prefer in my listening experience anyway, and I thought it was pretty solid on these. Things did get a little piercing with higher frequencies at times on certain songs, and I still couldn't get a whole lot of sparkle out of these babies. But after choosing the electronic EQ preset and then actually mapping the energy slider to treble control, I was able to get them closer to the kind of sound that I wanted and usually prefer. And you do also have the ability to utilize the personal sound profile feature here, whereby you basically take a hearing test in combination with the Nothing X companion app to help bring out frequencies you might otherwise have a little trouble hearing, which is a nice feature to have. And by the way, you could actually use both of those settings, personal sound profile and your EQ preset, with LDAC turned on, which is a nice plus. You don't have to pick one or the other. And you do also get on-headphone spatial audio support here in either a concert mode or a cinema mode, which is another example of these headphones offering more features than you might expect at their price tag, even if the execution still feels budget conscious. The spatial audio modes are not the best, and I do think concert mode is better than cinema mode for music listening, which I guess makes sense considering their names. And it's nice to have as an option. It's worth trying out. I do think it sounds better on some songs or on some content than others, but even then, still not the best spatial audio, on headphone spatial audio I've ever heard, but nice to have and not bad. And obviously these headphones do offer active noise cancellation with up to 40 decibels of noise reduction across a 2000 Hertz frequency range. And in real world use, that translates to decent ANC performance, not the kind that necessarily wipes out everything around you, but enough to take that edge off, if you will, with the lower rumbles and plain noises or HVAC noises. And you could either leave it off or use the low, medium, high, or adaptive settings for it. And you do also have a transparency mode built in, which performed well enough, even if it did make things sound a little thin and digital around you, but again, still nice to have. The ANC and transparency modes on the CMF Headphone Pro are possible because of the 5 total microphones built into them. And in case you're wondering how that microphone quality actually sounds, here's a few demos for you. This is what the microphone quality of the CMF Headphone Pro sounds like in the studio. This is raw audio recorded directly from the CMF Headphone Pro into the voice memos app on my iPhone, so hopefully this gives you a pretty good idea of what to expect. This is what the microphone quality of the CMF Headphone Pro sounds like with simulated background noise. This is raw audio recorded directly from the CMF Headphone Pro into the voice memos app on my iPhone, so hopefully this gives you a pretty good idea of what to expect. This is what the microphone quality of the CMF Headphone Pro sounds like with simulated wind. This is raw audio recorded directly from the CMF Headphone Pro into the voice memos app on my iPhone, so hopefully this gives you a pretty good idea of what to expect. Decent enough microphone quality there, very digital and a little echoey, but more than suitable enough for phone calls that I'd be taking on any given day, especially in louder environments, because these headphones do seem to be doing a pretty great job at background noise suppression, as you just heard in the demos there. So I'm very proud of them for that. But now, of course, let's address battery life. as it is usually one of the few areas that can completely change how budget headphones feel over time. So did the CMF Headphone Pro meet my expectations here too? Or is this where they actually surprised me? If we're being honest, I only expected the CMF Headphone Pro to probably only last around 50 hours on a full charge with AAC and ANC off. I was not expecting battery life to be as strong as it is on these. You could actually squeak out up to 100 hours of playback with AAC on and ANC off, or up to 50 hours with ANC on, which is a big number for this category, which means you could probably expect up to 70 hours of playback with LDEC on and ANC off, or 38 hours with LDEC on and ANC on, which sounds solid. And up to 50 hours of talk time with ANC off, or 35 hours with ANC on. All of this, of course, was tested in lab conditions at 50% volume, so you could expect your mileage to vary, with worse battery life if you're like me and often listen at much higher volumes. But even then, up to 100 hours of playback total, or almost 40 hours with LDAC and ANC turned on. Not exactly numbers I was expecting for a budget-friendly pair of headphones. Plus, they do also offer fast charging via their USB-C port, allowing for up to 4 hours of AAC playback with ANC on just a quick 5-minute charge. All of which more or less means that battery is probably something you won't be worrying about when you're using these. So far, as you can tell, these have pretty much turned out to be exactly what I wanted, but with one pretty big, meaningful, and positive surprise in the battery life department. So after using the CMF Headphone Pro for the last several weeks, they pretty much exactly what I thought a budget pair of CMF headphones would be, and does that end up feeling like a compliment or a limitation? The CMF Headphone Pro might have Pro in their name, but these really do just come across as a pair of headphones that understand what most people want at this price point, and they mostly follow through on that. So I don't think that these headphones are some giant killer pair of headphones that are gonna compete with stuff way above their price tag. But at the same time, I do think that if you want a fun, stylish, comfortable, feature-packed pair of headphones at this price range, that's where these do make the most sense. So yes, the CMF Headphone Pro were pretty much exactly what I thought a budget pair of CMF headphones would be. And in this case, that most certainly ends up feeling much more like a compliment than a limitation. As always, for the latest deals, prices, promos, and information for the CMF Headphone Pro, you could of course always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/CMF Headphone Pro. Of course, as always, there's gonna be clickable links in the video description box and in the comment section below, so check those out. And one thing I have not yet done with these is actually trying out that two-tone look. I'm gonna try that. I wanna see what I could come up with here. Really two-tone these, make them my own. Style incoming, let's go. I will see you guys in my next video.